YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back with some more grading free agency signings, and we have a playlist on our channel full of these videos, which we grade every single signing. Eventually, we get them all done here. So we had a big one last night, Orlando Brown Jr., the Bengals. That'll be in this video, and some other ones that we finally got the contract details for, and some we're waiting for still, and some signings that will be in this video that just happened. So, yeah, join us on our Twitter because that's where all the action happens first. The breaking news, the instant analysis, always interacting with you guys. Twitter subs get bonus content. Definitely more on the way for that. Link pinned in the comments for our Twitter. Join us here on the channel for all of our videos and our content. Like, subscribe to notifications on me. Much appreciated. Links for our Discord and our sponsors that you see underneath me are also pinned in the comments. Liquid IV has a new flavor, actually. They just sent it to me. It's pretty damn good. Go to their site. You'll see it right away. We have a code, and there's links pinned in the comments for that. It'll bring you directly there. So Jamal Williams last night signed with the Saints. A bit of a surprise. It was a surprise that we found out that he wasn't going to be with the Lions anymore. They went with David Montgomery, and I saw a lot of people, a lot of fans were like, oh, he must be asking too much. Maybe more than David Montgomery. But then he goes to the Saints for less, $4 million per year. Graphics guy really upped this game. Tweaked the graphics a little bit. Doing a heck of a job. 3 years, $12 million, $4 million per year to the Saints. Jamal Williams, I always liked him when he was on Green Bay. I always thought he was underrated, and he's really, it almost feels like he's getting better too, really taking off, breaking Barry Sanders' touchdown record last year. Very impressive. And he was, I felt like a good leader too. I mean, if you watch Hard Knocks, you know as well, just a really good guy to have, on the team in that locker room. So that factors in as well. But then you factor in that I think this is a really good deal. I mean, getting a durable running back like this, that for $4 million and just that alone, I think it's fantastic. But then you factor in the fit, and fit always isn't really scheme. It's like, what type of guy do you need? And there's multiple factors to it. And I'll explain how this is such a great fit for the Saints for multiple different reasons. Number one, they always value having like a running back duo, and they always, they want more of a physical guy. So now you have a duo with Kamara and Jamal Williams, and they always look for a kind of a physical guy to pair with Kamara, specifically short yardage, goal line. Boom, you got Jamal Williams, a perfect guy that they're looking for. This is like kind of and they kind of been scrambling a little bit for that type of guy. They bringing in new guys, shuffling around some guys. It's not like, Ingram when he was in his prime with the Saints. It's not like that anymore. So now they don't have to scramble. I mean, they got maybe the perfect guy for that situation there. And then on top of that, there is some things going on off the field with Kamara. So the suspension's probably going to happen because they said that last year. We expected it last year, but they were like, expect it maybe next year. Could it be 2 games, 3 games, 4, 5, 6. I don't really know. I'm not the suspension guy, but maybe somewhere in the range. But so getting a guy that has experience and could be the starter in the meantime is perfect. But when you're in that situation, you also do not at all want to overspend. And I think the Saints hit on all of the above, everything I just said there. So I love this deal for the Saints. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, it makes sense the Saints were looking for a running back for the reasons I explained, but a little surprised by it. Maybe surprised he's not in the Lions and he was cheaper than David Montgomery. And David Montgomery, I think a lot of us probably say maybe he has more overall talent. I think we would agree on that. But who is worthy from the Lions for that, slightly more, slightly a bit more of a contract? It'd probably be Jamal Williams, you'd think, because he was such a factor in that locker room and on the field for the Lions. So I give the Saints an A+ on that one. I like that. Was not expecting it. And that's kind of what makes free agency fun, like kind of those surprising moments there. Not that it was insanely shocking or anything like that. Other running back that was signed last night, the running back starting to come off the board. Miles Sanders goes to the Panthers. 4-year, $25 million at $6.25 million per year. Had a really good year for the Eagles. He's one of those guys that I do wonder, is he going to be as good elsewhere? I thought he was always a little underwhelming before last year, even though he was solid. He used to have some fumble issues, but not so much anymore, perhaps. 6.25 is, I don't really have a problem with that. I guess it's a little bit more than the other running backs, what they're getting paid, just a tiny bit more than David Montgomery. So you could say, so he's the highest paid running back free agency. Should he be? I guess and Kareem Hunt's still out there. He must be asking for a lot. So some people may argue it's a little too much for their liking. I don't really have a problem with the payment here, the price. I don't love 4 years, especially when all these guys are getting such good contracts in terms of value, but they're also 1, 2, 3 year deals. That's perfect for running backs. So 4 years, and I do want to see the complete contract layout, but I'd say most likely, the fourth year isn't zero dead cap money in terms of dead cap, so that if it was zero, then you can say, well, technically it could be a 3 year deal. But if there is some sort of cap hit there with from the dead cap, then it is really, you're not completely getting out of it. It's still a 4 year deal, and then you wouldn't have him if you decided to cut him. But that's down the road there. So I think perfect case would have been a 3 year deal at 6.25. I'd have been fine with that. Maybe you wanted more if it was a 3 year deal, perhaps. Who knows? But we'll see. I know the Eagles ran a lot of inside zone last year. And the Panthers, Frank Reich, really thrive. And they can mix it up a bit. I'm not really worried about that. But we saw some outside zone with them. But I think Sanders will play well for the Panthers. And Frank Reich and his system, he's a talented back. I don't think it's an overpay at all. 4 years, a little bit. And it's not like it's an underpay or anything like that. So I felt good with the B- on this one. But, what about Deontay Foreman, who was so good for the Panthers last year, underrated back? Wonder where he's going to go now. Also, the Panthers, this one happened earlier yesterday. We didn't get the contract details till last night. Hayden Hurst, we knew the Panthers might be looking for an upgrade at tight end. They got a couple decent tight ends in there. Ian Thomas, Tommy Tremble. But just looking for ways to get better because it's a valuable, important spot in Frank Reich's offense, and they weren't afraid to go out there and get better. So I do love that here. 3 years, $21.75 million. Hayden Hurst, he can catch the ball, he can block, so that's fantastic. I think he really fits Frank Reich's system. We thought maybe a guy like Gesicki, not as good of a blocker as Hurst, and Hurst really broke out as a pass catcher last year, better than I expected. He was with the Bengals, though, and that is a great offense, great passing offense. So will he be as productive? That's kind of the question there, why we can't maybe go nuts quite yet on this deal. But I do think $7.25 million per year, while some of these tight ends that are proven are getting, well, really not this offseason. We haven't seen this offseason really, but usually they get double digits, 10, 11, 12 million. Not that Hurst is worth that, but I think it's a pretty good value deal on top of it. We'll see if he could try to be as much of an impact as he was on the Bengals, but you got kind of getting a complete tight end here for Frank Reich's offense, which was pretty important. So the Panthers get an A- on that one. And then the Eagles got Fletcher Cox back. They end up getting Darius Slay back as well, but he wasn't a free agent, but that was huge because it was tough when they were going to lose him, but they're going to get him back, and it's probably going to be a cheaper in terms of the cap hit. So that's a win for the Eagles for sure. But Fletcher Cox comes back. They lost Javon Hargrave, where they have Jordan Davis, who's going to step up. So they have Davis and Cox in there on the inside. I think we'll see a bit more of some of the other guys. Milton Williams is a little more versatile. He can move around a bit, but excited about that. It's tough they lose Hargrave, but they get Fletcher Cox back, 1 year, $10 million. It sounded like he declined bigger offers elsewhere. I know of one. The Jets offered him a bit more, so he would have fit over there. Yeah, maybe Cox is declining a little bit. Look at it last year, took a little bit of a step down. Could he take another one this year? He's still going to be a good player, though. Obviously, we know he fits, and they couldn't afford to lose him on top of Javon Hargrave. So, huge getting him back. I think around $10 million actually makes sense. I don't know if it's much of a steal. It kind of feels like a little bit maybe of one if somebody else offered him more money. So, that was big. So, I gave this one an A. Again, big that the Eagles got him back. And then Juan Thornhill goes to the Browns. We knew the Browns would be looking for a free safety. And because they cut John Johnson, and then maybe we thought they'd be on Jesse Bates, who is a very expensive free safety, but an elite free safety in my opinion. He goes to the Falcons. So they get Juan Thornhill, who there was kind of a shortage on available free safeties, and there was some guys that can play multiple spots. Do they view him at free safety? But Juan Thornhill might have been the next best one available there. Well, technically John Johnson probably is, and that's why I actually love this deal. 3-year, 21 million, 7 million per year. I think he's better than safeties that are getting more money, a little bit more money, like 8 million, around that range. I think he's a really good fit. And the Chiefs always kind of have these smaller names, and Thornhill's, not really a smaller name, or wasn't really coming out of college, but the Chiefs always got these smaller name guys that aren't supposed to be anything special, playing way better than expected in their secondary. So you do think, are they going to be as good elsewhere? Specifically with, not only with safety, but specifically with free safety, I actually think Juan Thornhill could be better. He could be even better, not just because he's kind of getting to his stride, the upside because he's a young player. But yeah, the Chiefs are a little weird with those safeties. Thornhill wasn't always on the field. Sometimes whoever, not just last year, whoever they had in the past, but specifically last year, Justin Reed, played a little bit of strong, a little bit of free. They ran a lot of cover 2 last year, so a lot of split safety. I think they're going to go to the Browns. I think you're going to see a mixture of coverages Jim Schwartz is going to run. I think we'll see some of that cover 2 still, but I think we'll see some cover 4. I think we'll see some man coverage. I think we'll see a good mixture. So we'll get to see him in a split safety group, and then of single high free in cover 1, which I really like for him. And then having that pass rush up front of Myles Garrett, and they're kind of getting better elsewhere as well. I think it's a really good fit, and the $7 million is a really good value. So I was almost leaning A+. But then, I still think John Johnson's got to be a pretty good safety. It didn't really work out, but they brought in a new defensive coordinator. I thought John Johnson could be pretty good, and they did clear a little bit of money but it's post-June first cut there. But you could argue, could they, even though Juan Thornhill, I think he's going to fit. I think he's going to be good. He's got a lot of upside. Could they have actually been better today, which is not all about today, but with John Johnson, just sticking it out with him and trying him with Jim Schwartz. Maybe Jim Schwartz came in and said, hey, I don't know if he's a real good fit, which I guess, yeah, it's interesting because John Johnson was always really good in cover 4 scheme with the Rams, and then Jim Schwartz, I guess, we don't really know. I think a mixture of coverages, but the Titans ran a lot of cover 4 last year, which Schwartz didn't call the defense, but you would think he'd bring a little bit of that over. Maybe he came in and saw John Johnson not much of a fit, and in their eyes, maybe they upgraded. But overall, I do like it. I'm very curious to see how it works out for them. And then Orlando Brown, speaking of an ex-Chiefs player, let's see if there's any news right here. A couple things, nothing major. Another ex-Chiefs player, this is a big one last night. Orlando Brown Jr. signs with, who is my number 2 overall free agent after Lamar Jackson, who is still under the tag, but could consider him a free agent still because teams can negotiate. But anyways, Orlando Brown Jr. goes to the Bengals. For a 4-year, specifically $64.092 million. So the average will be a hair over $16 million. Keep in mind. So a guy, $16 million doesn't sound like much. It sounds like an absolute steal for a team that really needed a tackle. But then you factor in the signing bonus. Signing bonus was actually a record for offensive linemen, so something you do have to factor in here. $31 million. It's actually going to be a hair over $31 million, the signing bonus. That's a record for offensive linemen, so he gets that up front. So he has that in his pocket right now. So that was a big factor for him and why it was okay to take $16 million per year when he was seeking around 20. And realistically, teams were probably offering, I know the Steelers and the Jets were interested. What were they offering? They were probably offering nowhere near that $31 million signing bonus, but they were probably offering in the range of $18 to $19 million, I'd say, per year. Probably that $19 million per year. It would be my guess. But having that $31 million in your pocket, imagine that. Ridiculous. And that was big. That was big for him, and that's a record for offensive linemen. So that has to feel pretty good as well. So that kind of makes it, $16 million. Looking at that alone makes it look like an absolute steal, in my opinion, because he's probably worth the 18, 19 around that range. But then you factor in the $31 million signing bonus, that kind of takes it down a little bit. Because 31 of the contract, which is, look at it, $64 million is total. That's already out the door for the Bengals. Like you don't have that money. You can't work with that, because when it comes to cap hits, again, the player gets that right up front. But when it comes to cap hits, of course, it's not a $31 million cap hit right away. That'd be insane. It's divided among the years on the contract evenly. So 7.75. Again, it's supposed to be a hair over $31 million. $7.75 million is a cap hit per year. So you see all these teams restructuring contracts, moving cap hits around. They're taking base salary, turning it into a signing bonus, and pushing it down into the future. They're taking roster bonus, doing the same thing. But with signing bonus, it's locked in. So you're locked in. You can't renegotiate that. The guy's already got it in his pocket. You can't restructure it. Because restructure is making things into a signing bonus, basically. Best way to explain it. So the Bengals are locked in for cap hits, $7.75 million, just a hair over, like we said, each year on 4 years of the contract. So, that's not a whole lot. I mean, that's not the entire cap hit, though. Of course, there's other factors, base salary, all the different type of bonuses, roster bonus, workout bonus, per game bonus, anything like that. But they're locked into those cap hits. And then say we get down the line, and we know the Bengals front-loaded this. Say we get down the line, and they already paid most of it. Maybe they, don't want to pay the rest of it, but they're still going to have to pay the 7.75 part. That won't go away in the bottom part there. So I guess the signing bonus kind of makes it a little bit of a negative and kind of makes up for the $16 million per year, somewhat of a steal there. So it's really more than that. I mean, it's not the average of $16 million, but it really feels like it's more. So that makes it, again, really not a huge steal. But overall, what I do like here, I do like Orlando Brown Jr. I think he's a very solid tackle, and he's continuing to get better as a pass protector. He's already a really good run blocker, which the Bengals needed help with. Maybe they run it back with Joe Mixon, too, because now you got this. You might be able to run that left side a little bit better here. And then the front loading was good, actually. Getting the money, even though it's a lot of money in his pocket and it's risky, because if he gets hurt, it blows up big time. But it's a durable, solid tackle, so it's worth the risk. But getting the money out of the way early, because the Bengals actually have space right now. Because people are like, what are the Bengals doing? They're losing guys, they're not gaining guys because they have cap space. Here they go. They made a move, and they're using that money. They're paying that money now because in the future they got to pay Joe Burrow, they got to pay T. Higgins, they got to pay Jamar Chase, etc. And these are expensive deals. So it actually makes sense to make a large portion of signing bonus and front load this thing. It actually makes sense. So overall, it is an insane signing bonus. It kind of made sense for the Bengals situation. The $16 million per year looks pretty good, which it's a little misleading, but it looks pretty damn good. I like Orlando Brown Jr. I like him for the Bengals. Upgrade the run blocking. Another thing is they finally were not afraid to get better. They were insisting on Jonah Williams at left tackle, who could move to right tackle, could move to guard, but they were insisting on him at left tackle. I didn't think they were ever going to stop. They finally stop, and they're like, okay, we're coming up just short. Enough is enough, and I love that. So I'm going to give this an A. It's tough to give it an A+ because the signing bonus makes it insanely risky. It's a record, they're there, so it turns into not being crazy and a steal or a value win there. But overall, for the reasons I explained, my phone's going off like crazy. I like it for the Bengals here, so I gave it an A. So yeah, some teams showing interest in Odell Beckham Jr. Chiefs. Speaking of the Chiefs, Ravens and Cowboys. So some things going on out there in the football world. But this one just happened right before recording, this next one. And that was Parris Campbell to the Giants. Squeeze this one in here before recording. Goes to the Giants for 1 year, $3 million. I saw right when I clicked record, I saw the max. The max contract was around $6.5 million. So that makes a little more sense. I still think it's a really good deal looking at that max. But I like that. I like making an incentive base for Parris Campbell because this guy is good when he's on the field. And we'll go into more about the talent, but he's some durability issues there. So make an incentive base. If he plays or if he reaches X amount of yards or this production, which only can be done if he's healthy. That makes a lot of sense there. But I think he's a talented guy. He's super speedy as well, but I think it's a guy that can do more than people think. I think you think of the speedy guy, he's kind of an end around or just get the ball in his hands. I think he can do a bit more than that. Playing outside, playing a slot, running different routes. I think he's talented. He showed really good flashes last year when he played, and that was with the mess of a quarterback situation with the Colts. And I know there's probably going to be some people chiming in that say, well, Daniel Jones isn't the best quarterback. Yeah, but that's totally different. He actually played pretty well last year, and he's going to be in there. He's a durable guy. He's going to stick in there. He's going to be the guy. It's not a mess of a quarterback situation, He's going to get the ball to Parris Campbell. So I actually really like this when it comes to value and kind of the upside here, going away from a mess of a quarter. Like, he had a different quarterback every week. Like, they go back to Matt Ryan. No, wait, let's not go back. Let's go to Nick Foles at the end of the year. It's a little bit of a mess, you know what I mean? So, I do like this, but I hope they're not done at receiver. They added Waller, which kind of plays a part. That's big. They had Parris Campbell. I like it, but I hope they are not done. I don't think they'll be done. I heard they were in on McCole Hardman and DJ Chark. We'll see if they double down. Not both those guys, but double down in terms of Parris Campbell and one of those guys. I don't want them to overspend, though. If they can't get one of those guys without overspending, maybe another cheaper guy or the draft. The draft, not doesn't have to be. It could be in round one, doesn't have to be. So I hope they're not done here, but I do like this one. And then some more signings here. Steelers grabbed Cole Holcomb. That was yesterday. We finally figured out. This is an interesting one too. We figured out the contract details. 3-year, $18 million. I think it's a boom or bust type of signing here. I think it's a boom or bust, and we'll give it a B for boom. That's not why, but coming from the Commanders, I thought, young guy, a lot of upside, kind of showed some flashes there. I thought he was a pretty good blitzer when they used him in the blitzing game. We didn't see much of it this past year. And Mike Tomlin wants to blitz. He does send his inside linebackers in quite a few blitzes. Used to be more before rather than recent. But I think they're going to kind of get back on track with that. So he could fit, and he still has some upside. He has been playing in 4-3 scheme, so it is a transition going from 4-3 to playing 3-4 inside. I got the feeling he's going to fit, though. I kind of like it. It's an assumption, but I kind of like it. 3-year, 18. There are some linebackers that are a little more proven, getting around the same contract. But overall, this one feels kind of good to me. Usually there's, again, a guy that's kind of getting the same amount or more than maybe guys that are better than him right now. Like usually I would probably give this the worst grade, but I kind of get a good feeling about it. They're going to blitz him a bit. He's still got some upside. They signed Landon Roberts too, which I do not have the contract details at the time I'm talking. It was like an hour ago they signed him. I really like that fit. Not like a flashy linebacker, but I like that fit. They actually move on from Myles Jack, who's known as a more talented linebacker than all these guys. But I never liked him as a fit. I said that when they signed. I was surprised. Like they got Myles Jack. I don't know if that's a fit. Of course I had people arguing with me, but a year later he's gone. So they don't have the big name guys. But I think that guy, Holcomb's kind of a wait and see. I feel fits a little bit of a question, but I got a good feeling about it. But it's kind of a boom or bust one here. So I gave it a B. Dolphins with a couple small not small in terms of money. I think these are decent players here. Deshaun Elliott. There was some talk about them maybe adding a strong safety to start. But they did have Brandon Jones, who's been solid for them over there. I know it's a little bit different scheme for him. But so they get a guy that can kind of contribute as well, like be, start as a backup, but also can play in the box. That makes a little more sense to me. And it's a guy with experience who's still young and a pretty cheap deal. So I give it an A. And Nick Needham's been a pretty good slot corner for the Dolphins when on the field, and they kind of needed him back, or they needed Needham back. Or a slot corner, so being able to get him for 1 year, $2 million is pretty good. Colts getting Taven Bryan, kind of a random signing, 4.5. That might be the max value, but I thought he'd be a minimum guy just because you keep thinking Bryan has upside. He looked like a bust as a draft pick, but it's like get him in a different scheme, get him somewhere else. He's got upside. We keep thinking that. Now we're at the point where it's like, he's a depth guy. He's in that's what it'll be for the Colts, but you kind of played him like a high-end depth guy. I don't know if he's that high-end guy, but I could fit Gus Bradley's scheme, though. Commanders grabbed Jacoby Brissett, who played pretty decent last year. When given the shot, he has the experience, so it could be Howell versus Brissett. Maybe they could look to add another one. I heard they could be a sneaky team when it comes to the draft. I'm not fully counting on them taking one in the draft, but I guess you never know. 1 year, $10 million. It's a pretty good deal. Probably normally I would have gave this an A, but it kind of tells us they're interested in just staying decent at the quarterback position right now. I don't love that, but I do like Brissett. Overall I like the deal. Tricky one here, the Vikings and Alexander Mattison, 2 years, $7 million. Overall, with value and like that amount of money for Madison, I like it. I think Madison's talented enough to be worth that. Not that it's a lot or anything, but I think that all makes sense. So that kind of almost puts it in the A range, but there was 6.3 whatever, almost most of it is guaranteed, and talent-wise, I think he's worth that 6 whatever guaranteed. But based on how much they used him last year, it is not worth it for the Vikings, a pass-first team who needed to run the ball more, but didn't. They're just O'Connell's gonna live and die by the pass. That's fine. That's where the league's heading, and they had a really good offense. Is he worth that 6 whatever million as a second-string running back that way? No, I don't think so. But again, the talent-wise, he is. But do they move on from Dalvin Cook Therefore they're not valuing the running back that as high as they are right now. Because you have Dalvin Cook's money, you have Madison's money, and then you have two pretty good young guys behind Madison even. But then so moving on from Cook would make sense, and I think that would make this grade actually go up perhaps. Cook is better than Madison, obviously. Madison's a legit number 2 that feels like a number 1 if given the opportunity. So that's something to monitor. James Robinson, I ended up bumping up this grade because it was originally reported 2-year, $8 million, which I was a little surprised by that, but it ended up being very much like incentivized. Is that a word? I don't know. A lot of incentives in that one. So that makes some sense. I did think he was probably going to get the minimum. That wasn't the case here because he didn't do anything with the Jets, and the Jags just got rid of him. So I thought he'd get the minimum. This is more than what I thought he was going to get, but that doesn't mean he's overpaid, really. I still think he's talented, and I like that it has a lot of incentives in it because he has the talented in him, and if he shows that with the Patriots, he did with the Jags before he didn't with the Jets, then he can get his money there. So overall, I thought this was pretty good, B+, and he'll probably get back on track. Give it an A for Mac Wilson. They brought him back on a pretty cheap deal, seemed to fit with the Patriots, still a young guy. I like the way he played. Nothing spectacular, but just bring back Solomon Thomas, 1 year, $3.9 million. Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of him last year. Just been a little underwhelming. I was surprised with the 3.9. Thought he can be a minimum candidate there. But yeah, I know you do think he fits that defense pretty well, but yeah, a little more than I thought. I like PJ Walker to the Bears. Pretty cheap deal. That's max value, $5 million on 2 years. The Bears needed a backup. And they still have Simeon. They're gonna have to cut him, but not like Simeon. Like Simeon's smart, good to have him in there last year, so Fields could pick his brain perhaps. But you want to, it's a different offense with Justin Fields, a different style offense that Simeon and other guys are running. You want to get a guy that kind of fits that, and PJ Walker fits that well, and we saw injury pop up for Fields last year, so having a guy with starting experience is great. And then there's a DJ Moore connection, which we won't see the connection much because Justin Fields is a starter, obviously, but I think all those are positives there. So the Bears getting PJ Walker is an A. It's not really what people expected. I don't think people expected them to hammer out linebacker, the linebacker market, and then get something in a guard and then grab a quarterback this early in free agency. I thought people thought maybe right tackle, edge rusher, D tackle. So it is an interesting route the Bears are going, but I like some of these moves here. 49ers, I like this one a lot. Cleveland Farrell, who is known as a bust, but we know the talent's got to be in there somewhere. Really solid defensive end potentially, and then the team that's getting the potential out of some of these guys, specifically on the defensive line, San Francisco 49ers. I know D'Amico Ryans is gone, but they got Wilkes in there, and they got a lot of good talented guys around a guy like Cleveland Farrell. So kind of the Charles Omenihu replacement. I like it. I kind of want to give this one an A+ now that I'm talking about it a little bit more. So I like that one for the 49ers, 1 year, 2.5, very no risk really. So that one feels good. I like that as an A+. So scratch the A+ on that one. But that wraps it up for this video. Again, we have a playlist on our channel. You'll find a link pinned down below. You just go to our channel. You'll find it with all these videos with grades on them. There's one video in there grading the trades that happened so far. More trades will happen. And we cover everything and every single thing NFL here and on our Twitter. So like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow that Twitter. Link pinned in the comments for that. Anything else you're looking for. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.